Hello, my name is Javier Mondragon. I am the founder and CEO of Bridge of Grace Compassion and Ministries. And we're here to talk about the complexity of poverty and specifically about the issues of Southeast Fort Wayne. And I was able to talk to Judge Pratt and Michael Joyner. So thank you, Judge Pratt, for being with us today.
Thank you for having me.
And I wanted to ask you, just starting, is poverty complex?
Leading research will tell us that poverty has to do with the ability to access resources, the ability to respond in a rational and meaningful way to complex issues that may confront someone during the course of their day, the ability to plan ahead as opposed to just looking at the exigent circumstances of the moment, the ability to maintain and to regulate one's emotional response, and all of the things that typically come and are associated with generational poverty negatively impact those skill sets.
You know, most people, when they think about poverty, they immediately think about the lack of money, the lack of wealth. But we know that poverty is more than that. It's the lack of opportunities, the lack of choices, the lack of support systems that are essential for life.
Absolutely. And don't think of poverty being a monetary, immediate connection. I don't care what anybody says. I'll be the first to tell you, when I go into these communities that are seeing spikes in crime, it's commonplace for people to say, hey, look, we have to get this under control. There's too many homicides, there are too many domestic disturbances. Let's do some type of unique policing aspect to get it under control, to find those individuals that are involved. Well, we do that, but at the same time, I think we're creating problems. And by that, I mean this: directed patrols. We got the gang units out there. We've got everybody that's trying to find these players that are involved in crime. And they're focused typically in these areas. And so, me, Mr. Smith, who has to work 2 jobs to support my family. And it just so happens that one of those jobs that I have puts me in my car at 1 o'clock in the morning to go to that job. Now, as a directed patrol officer who is looking for individuals on the street at that time in the morning, thinking, aha, here's a person that should be in bed typically. And it just so happens Mr. Smith forgot to turn his turn signal on to indicate he's turning, so he gets stopped. Might get a ticket for that. Well, Mr. Smith can't afford that ticket because he's doing everything possible, okay, to sustain his family, a roof over his head, meals on the table. Now, we've just set him up for failure. What's going to happen? He can't afford that ticket. His driving privileges are going to be suspended. It might result in a warrant. He goes to jail. He loses his job. As much as we try to fix things, in my opinion, from what I see, we only add to the problem. It's almost pouring fuel to the fire.
One of the things that's really frustrating me as a juvenile court judge is that when I wake up after most weekends and there's been another murder, another shooting, and I think we've become desensitized, but I think we need to take the gut-wrenching moment to imagine what that means for that particular family, and in terms of if that were my son or daughter, and that's painful to think about. So we usually try to avoid it, but I think it's important that we do think in those terms. I think it's also important, and I would love to see this developed, if we had a pinpoint in the city of Fort Wayne wherever there's been an act of violence or a shooting or a drug overdose, and then make a 3-block circle and find out how many kids live in that area. We're going to find a lot of kids that have been robbed of their childhood by that traumatic event. That the vacant lot where they used to play baseball is gone because there was a body found there the night before. And that's going to impact their ability to function in school, despite the best efforts of their parents.
You have a different perspective, definitely. I mean, you go at night when they call, you get to the crime scene, you see this body, you see blood on there, and then you see a family who's suffering.
It's hard to process that and forget about it, to be quite honest with you. I don't know of an officer, a firefighter, or anybody else that's in public safety, the medics that are even up more close and personal, that just say, oh, I've forgotten about that. That blood and that gore, brain matter, the kids, the little kids that were traumatized by this, that saw that, and then you try to talk to them, interact with them, let them know that it's going to be all right. You'll get through this. They don't get through it. We can't turn a blind eye, and we must visit tomorrow, and tomorrow better be a better day than yesterday. We have to give each family in our community hope and provide them the services that are necessary, understanding that tomorrow will be a different day and it will be a positive day in my life regardless of what happened yesterday. It takes a community. It's just not the courts. It's not the police department. It's not the religious community. It's every aspect of our community.
Wow.
Okay? It's southeast, it's southwest, it's northeast, and it's northwest, and it's central Fort Wayne. It's the people that are elected to office. It's every aspect of our community. We are a community. We are one. We are a family. And the day that we look at our community as one and willing to share the resources and a belief that we can do better is the day that we correct our issues.
If there were one answer, I would say the one answer is relationships.
Wow.
A listening relationship. And listening means more than just hearing. It's really listening to that child or that adult's plight and that adult's experience, and giving them a protective ear. And what I mean by a protective ear is an ear that's non-judgmental, an ear that says, we understand that you've been hurt. If you think of a paper doll and name her Susie, and Susie the night before school watches mom get beaten up, and she goes to bed maybe with very little supper. And she wakes up the next morning and mom, because of her circumstances, is not able to get her ready for school as she normally would. And so Susie races out and she's late for the bus. But when she races out, part of Susie is gone if you tear a part of that paper doll away. And if you then she enters the bus and the bus driver yells at her for being tardy, another portion of Susie is pulled away. And then if she gets to school and the teacher berates her for not getting her homework done without making any inquiry as to what the circumstance might have been for that child, another portion of Susie. And then a little fraction of Susie is left to function the rest of the school day, and we're surprised that she's not learning. Where if you reverse that, and all of us become asset builders, all of us become resiliency builders, where we might not be able to change what happened in that home, but if that bus driver says, Susie, don't worry about being late, we're going to make it to school today, you look great. And the teacher says, Susie, I know you didn't get your homework done, but maybe we can sit down together and figure out the reason why and try to help you out. You start restoring Susie instead of depleting Susie.
Wow.
And that changes Susie's life.
There's no question that poverty or the issues in Southeast Fort Wayne are complex. The solutions are complex too. Complex but not impossible.